Welcome to Chai with Ping. This is Ping Robert. In this podcast, I cover immigrant stories, cross-cultural experiences, and minority issues. Join me with a cup of chai and take a listen. All right, you ready?
Yeah, go.
Cool. Welcome back to Chai with Ping. My name is Ping. Thank you so much for tuning in to our show again. And this is another episode. Before we dive deeper into the episode today, I would like to invite you to follow and subscribe on whatever app you're listening to the podcast to. And then also, recently, Spotify just launched a new feature. So I would like to invite you to click that 5-star button right below our channel. And you should be able to find it. And I will put the post on my social media, including Facebook and Instagram, to show you how to do that. So this is just a little way that you can encourage me to what I'm doing. So on top of that, thank you so much for joining. And I'm just going to introduce our guest today. So she has been here before, and I'm so excited because she appeared in episode 36 and she talked about parenting TCKs, currently in London, the UK. And then I brought her back because we just want to talk. So let's welcome Aggie.
Woohoo, thank you very much for having me back. Yeah, it's great to have this opportunity to chat again.
I know. So we talked a few months ago during summer, and right now we're recording at the end of 2021. How have you been?
Yeah, great. Thank you. It's been only a few months since we last talked, but quite a lot happened since then. Yeah, last time we talked, it was the beginning of summer. And since then, I managed to visit my home country, which we can talk about a little bit. So yeah, quite a few things happened we last talked.
So for the listeners who don't know, Aggie is from Hungary. Which city are you from?
I am from the capital, which is Budapest.
So is that, like, I don't know, from my experience, a lot of people from the capitals of each country will come out as internationals. Is that the idea for you? It's like more people are coming from the capital instead of other cities from Hungary?
You mean not many people leave the countryside part? Is that
yeah,
what you mean?
I wonder. Yeah.
I can see that as well. Yes.
Yeah.
I went to university in another city in the east part of my country, and I don't think many people leave that part. They were born there, they live there, they stay there, they marry there and everything. So yeah, it's a bit different culture, I suppose. Yeah.
Is it also because of the exposure that you have and the resources in Budapest?
Yes, definitely. Yeah. I mean, it's full of tourists, like most capitals, actually. And I was exposed more to people coming and going, and even family members. Yeah, I heard a lot about England. So here I am.
Are there many people in your family abroad like you?
No, not at the moment, but I have I have some family who have been here or elsewhere. And actually, if I think about it, most of them are back in Hungary.
Because I was just wondering, for your parents, what did they think about you moving to the UK and stayed there for the long term?
Yeah, I think originally they were nervous, definitely. But it really helped that when I first came here, very long time ago, in 2008, I came with my sister. So I have two sisters, and one of them still has a similar mindset as me. So we decided to come here together. So I think that was a bit of a relief for my parents.
So two of you guys traveling together, it will be safer for girls, huh?
Yeah, definitely.
Let's talk a little bit about your summer trip, since we're already talking about it. You went home. I guess you brought 3 of your kids and your husband there. How long were you there for?
Indeed, we went to have a lovely summer holiday in my home country in the summer. I was there for almost a month, and my husband joined us for 2 weeks. Yeah, so that was a lovely time.
What did you guys do there?
So we had a lovely countryside holiday in in a little farm that is a very typical old Hungarian countryside farm called Tonyo. And it's just a tiny little house in the middle of nowhere. But if you believe me when I say in the middle of nowhere, literally the nearest house or neighbor is, I mean, you can see them, but they are so far away that you can see the house, but you can't see the people, if you know what I mean.
It's just very widespread out.
It is, yes. They're all spread out, and they all have their fields around them. And they also have animals. So these people just had this little house and rent it out. So we rented it for a week, and it was a wonderful time. And we were just, running around and shouting and screaming. The kids, it didn't bother anyone. So it was the ideal family holiday for us, on top of the cultural experience.
What did the kids do over there in terms of like cultural experience?
So we saw some family, but we didn't see as many family members and friends as I would normally or usually, try and cram it all in and meet loads of people. And partly, I think the whole pandemic helped because, you can sort of, hide behind the fact that some people don't want to meet up, especially if you come from abroad. So I think we appreciated this, that we were able to just see really close family. And of course, we visited all the sites, went on all the, the train, the tram, we went to the zoo. This is one of the things that we always do. And the kids always ask for it. They remember it. They're only 7, 5, and almost 3. But the older ones remember that every time we go to Hungary, we go to the zoo. So it's like a tradition, and it's also a big part of being a tourist in Hungary, in Budapest. And for them, as third culture kids, it's part of their Hungarian culture that they go there. So that's their little nugget of Hungarian experience for them. So that's one of the things that we always do. And then this holiday was another one. That was great. And usually we go to the lake to have a holiday there. And I actually have a sister who lives there. So it was tricky to decide whether to go to the lake close to my sister to have some holiday there. But then I decided that it would be nice to see some other parts of the country as well, for me as well, because I haven't been all over the place that much. So there's 2 places to see, of course. And for the children as well, I wanted for them to experience this farm life, which is a really traditional way of life. And not many people live that way, but there still are some. And also, close to this farm, there's a nearby town. A great-grandfather of mine used to be a mayor there. And there's a square named after him and even a statue. So I've never been there before. So this was really important for me. I think it's incredible that it happened in this year when I received my settled status in another country and became, or sort of realized or came to the awareness that I am becoming multicultural person, which has been happening for years now. But I've always thought about myself as a monocultural person and someone who comes from Hungary. But having received this settled status here in the UK, it really got me thinking. And I talked about that a little bit in our previous conversation. And this visit to this place where I literally have roots that show in the form of a statue was quite meaningful and so well timed, I think, that it happened this year and not ever before. It meant a lot to me. And the children saw it. It didn't mean that much to them, but I think we might go back and visit again at some point in the future. Yeah.
Do you think there is a difference between, like, since you have been there in 2008 and now it's 2021, so it's been like 13 years, as the time progresses, the feeling or the sense of belonging also changes?
Definitely, yes. Yes, I still, this is an interesting one. I think belonging is a funny one, because I always will think of myself as a Hungarian who took on another citizenship. But at the same time, I already feel like I belong here as well, even though sometimes I feel like I don't fit in completely. But belonging and fitting in it's not always the same, is it? And I have to say that I am actually really privileged in this, that I'm able to feel belonging here, because I've been thinking about this recently, that in some countries, expatriates live in countries where they are not ever able to attain any sort of settled status or citizenship. And I have that privilege that I am able to do that here. And so I think that also plays a part in my belonging and sort of connection and attachment to this place. But yet at the same time, fitting in is a different issue. It's a different topic. Or how can I say? So, for example, there are situations when I still feel like I don't fit in. Yeah. So does that make sense, that, fitting in and belonging is not the same thing?
Yeah, I feel so too, because I've been here in the US for 4 years now. Right now, do I belong? Probably, because I don't feel I belong to the life in Taiwan anymore. And I'm like, my husband, Louis, is Indian, so I totally don't belong to the Indian culture. However, I also know a lot more than other people since I lived there for 3 years. So as the time kind of adds up, I think the understanding of the place adds up too. However, yeah, you're saying that fitting in. I was like, will we ever fit in? That's just one of the questions I asked myself. Like, maybe it's not a realistic expectation that immigrants will actually fit in. So, Agi, do you have dual citizenship or just the UK one?
I only have Hungarian citizenship, but I have settled status here, which is the same as indefinite leave to remain. This is almost the same as citizenship, and I will apply for citizenship later. But you have to get this first in order to apply for the next. So
like a permanent residency.
Yep. Yeah, basically, yeah.
And can you maintain both of them, or you have to? Oh, okay.
Yes. That's another privilege, isn't it?
Yeah,
so yes, I can, and I appreciate that very much, because I don't think I could take on a citizenship and lose my
Hungarian one,
my own.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So I couldn't do that.
Yeah.
Or, well, I say I couldn't, but then who knows? I mean, there are other people who are in more difficult situations, and their answer would be different to mine.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I also wonder, having an English husband, Jesse, does it help you to adjust better or fit in a little bit more than other immigrants?
Yeah, I'm sure it does. Yeah. I have lost most of my accent as well. So that also helps. And the fact that my accent doesn't give me away very much helps to fit in. But also my husband, he definitely helps me fit in and belong, and not just because he's British, but because he can help me, he can teach me, he can point out things. I mean, we're not doing this very intentionally, but it's just how it is. We help each other out, I suppose, and so did I when we lived there. And yeah, just unintentionally explaining things to each other, that, oh, actually that doesn't work like that here, and stuff like that. Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about the experience of your kids, because I can imagine that your parents, so their grandparents, will be speaking Hungarian, doing whatever they grew up doing, but it will be pretty new for your 3 kids. How did that go?
Yeah, so I have been trying to teach my children Hungarian, and it's not going that well. So it's a bit of a mix. My parents, and wider family, most of them speak really good English, and even those who don't try to. And so it's a bit of a Hunglish, as we call it, when we are at home, and there is a lot of translation going on. Although I did feel quite sad and bitter about it, I think I have come to the realization, and I'm coming to the peace to accept that, my children will always have this dominant culture, which is the British culture, because, well, so far they lived most of their life here, their developmental years here in the UK. So it will be the dominant. Our home language is English. Their education is British education and curriculum. That is the dominant. Even if, I pushed my Hungarian heritage, language, and culture more, it will still be dominant. So I've just come to the realization and this peace that I'm just going to go easy, and I'm just going to go with the flow and still keep up with the traditions and cook some Hungarian food. And the kids love it and appreciate it. But when I force it, they don't. So that really helps, to be honest, when you're really trying hard and it doesn't work, and then you take it back a notch and it works better. So yeah, that's where we are at now.
Do you have the pressure of like grandparents asking, oh, why don't your kids speak Hungarian, or they don't understand me? And then how are they feeling about the whole cross-cultural relationship?
I do occasionally have some pressure, but to be honest, my mom loves to speak English to my kids, in her broken English, which is quite adorable. And sometimes I have to step in and explain. But also, my dad just goes and plays with them on the floor, and they don't need any language at all. So, there's more to communication than language, isn't there? So I think we're really coming to be more and more experts on this non-verbal communication, which is great.
Yeah. Let me ask you, do your family expect Jessie speak more Hungarian?
Yeah, I think they would love it. And Jessie did do language school. And he would have carried on, but we were just struggling financially at the moment. We had to make decisions to make cuts here or there. And so that made the cut, sadly. So he would have loved to carry on. And he still says to today that he wants to learn. And if we ever live there again, I'm sure he will. And I will make more of an effort to budget for that for him. So yeah, he definitely would. And my family would appreciate it, because who doesn't? If a friend who comes to your country and they can at least speak broken language, then you appreciate it, don't you? So yeah.
I felt like our cultures, like yours, Hungarian, and in Taiwan or in India, these three cultures, they appreciate so much more that when foreigners are trying to learn their languages. But I also felt that pressure of the community, not my in-laws. My in-laws are very forgiving and they just encourage me whatever I can say Hindi. But the community I face, they always ask the in-laws like, oh, so your daughter-in-law doesn't speak Hindi, and how do you guys communicate? And then is she gonna learn? So then I felt that pressure outside of the family instead of inside. And then Louis, when he went back to Taiwan, I think some of the relatives who asked, or even the church people here will be like, oh, you've been in Taiwan for how many years? And what, you speak Mandarin? Oh, and then actually he doesn't have to speak a lot, just a few sentences there, and everyone was happy. So it's a different dynamic towards the husband and the wife, I feel.
That's interesting. Yeah.
During this trip, going back home, what's the sentiment around it? Do you feel like, I don't know, I'm just imagining last time in 2019, I went back home. I felt a little bit like a tourist, and I felt a bit sad and lost, because it seems like everyone else around me, they headed toward their direction in Taiwan. But me, the life in the US, no one knows. and understands, and they don't even know how to ask the questions about my life in the US. So then it's just like I come in, stay a month, and then leave. So there's a disconnection over there. What about you?
Yeah, it's similar. I think very mixed feelings when I go. I always really look forward to it and think that I'm really going to make an effort to love it. And then you get there and it's hard. It is, and it's normal, for you as well. That disconnection is, you can't do anything about that. So I suppose it's accepting it. That's what we need to do. And yeah, I get very frustrated when I'm there because something just don't make sense to me anymore, or like you feel like, oh, you're stuck in the Middle Ages or whatever, and then at the same time, it's really a paradox, because sometimes I get so frustrated and sometimes I'm like, life makes so much sense here for me. Like, this is where I grew up. This is the way of thinking that how I grew up. This is how people think. Is this how I think still? Or this is how I used to think. Is this still how I think? And then, oh gosh, it's a lot of thinking and wrestling that goes on. And that's exhausting, to be honest. But yeah, it's everything, the whole scale, I think. You can feel all of it when I visit. I'm sure you do too.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes I can see the root of our culture is like, this is different and this is how it happens, and then I'm like, oh, this is definitely not a thing I would do in the US or in India. But then also it's like, they're doing this thing in Taiwan, but we don't do that anymore in the US, and I have like a tiny bit of reverse culture shock. And also there are lots of things happening back in our home countries, right? Like, so I don't follow every piece of news in Taiwan, and then songs or whatever jargon they're using. So then I felt like, I feel like I need to catch up. But in the meantime, I'm like, do I have to? Because like after 3 weeks, I'm gone again. And I don't know, it feels a little awkward.
Yeah. I can see that.
Yeah.
Definitely agree with that. Yeah.
Do you have any guilt or sadness besides frustration of not staying there long enough or be with your family and all that?
I think I used to, but I don't really feel that anymore. I think, it's been so many years now that I think we're all, so I'm accepting it now. And my family is accepting of this situation as well, more and more. So I suppose that helps. Time helps, it's a cliche, but it's true. Yeah. So yeah, we all learn and grow, and I used to feel guilty, definitely.
How does it look like in Hungary for elder care? Like, in my culture, I always, in the back of my mind, always thinking about when my parents get old, and it is like, it's not required, but it's kind of expected that we will go and take care of them. And especially, it's only just two of me and my brother. And I don't know, we haven't figured it out yet. And then I don't think they want to move to the US, and I don't want them to have to, because there are roots over there and medical care and all that. So what about that for you? Do you think about taking care of them or your family well?
Yeah, similar to that. I think in terms of family culture, I think it's Hungarian is similar to Asian culture more than the Western. So yeah, people take care of their old people, their parents and grandparents, and that has come up in my mind a lot. And actually, last week, my uncle's aunt died, and it really made me think. And then a conversation came up really randomly between me and my sisters. And one of my little sisters said, well, I suppose when our parents get older, it's going to be my job to take care of them, which then she pointed out that there's no bitterness in this comment. It's just that she's been thinking about it as well. So I suppose we have all come to the realization that it's going to be her job, which is hard, but I mean this is how it is. And more and more in Hungary, elderly care homes are more and more accepted. And my parents, well, at least my dad, I know he's totally up for that. I mean, that's what he's always been saying, that he's totally up for moving into a home. They will take care of him. You don't need to look after me. Just come and visit. And yeah.
Do they have a stronger social network for your parents?
My parents have a strong network. Yeah.
So they have like a lot of friends and relatives. They will. Okay. Okay.
So they are all growing all together, and they are all. They go to church, and they have their little friendship group, and they look after each other. Really, they do.
Yeah, I think that makes a difference, because like from what I'm thinking, both me and my brother are here in Colorado. So then there's no immediate family for them. And of course, my aunt and uncles are there, but it's just not, they're not gonna take care of each other because they're growing old together. And sorry about your aunt and uncle. I think this year it has become more prevalent of like, we are missing the people who are passing away. And it's just a lot more. And it got me thinking about meaning of life and how much time we can actually cherish with them. So what is home for you?
She popped the big question.
That's right. We already talked so much about around home.
Man, I have so many good things going on in my head. I'm just hoping that I can put it into audible, voice.
Okay, let's do that.
But so I've read a really good quote recently that I already shared on my TCK Mama Instagram site, and it goes, home is not defined by geographical location, but memories, events, people, and places. And whether you live in the same place your whole life or not, it's true regardless. The memories, the events, the people, the places, the pub, the restaurant, the church where you christen your child, or where you get married, or the funerals, or the events, the birthday celebrations, it's all defining the people. That's what makes us feel home. And it's the same for those of us who move around. We, yes, of course, we miss, the place that we leave and the people that we leave, but then we have new events and memories and people to meet and gather the new memories that will contribute to our home. So I really love that quote I read recently, and I think this is what I'm feeling now, that where I was born and brought up is going to be my home always, and that's not the only one, and that's okay. It's just how it is. And I'm collecting homes, I suppose. I have 2 at the moment, if we're talking in countries. But at the same time, I have family in more than 2 countries. And they are a piece of me. They are connected to me. And, if you say home is where the heart is, then home is where your family is. Home is where your people are, your friends are. If your family is not all over the globe, but your friends are all over the globe, that's the same or similar. I
agree. I was just thinking about home is where our heart is. I feel like there's more to it. I feel like the people also makes a huge difference. If right now remove all the people I know in Taiwan, I probably won't want to go back as bad as now. Is it the same for you?
That's interesting. I can't think about that.
Right?
Because there'll always be people there.
I know. I just felt like if ever my parents my parents are gonna pass away eventually, but if they pass away and then it just doesn't feel there's a point that I should go back. Like who should I go back and see?
Okay. And then you have your brother near you, or at least in the
near
same
me. Yeah. 25 minutes away.
state. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's quite near, especially if you're talking America.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Yeah. That's different because, yeah, it's interesting you say that. I don't. So I have two sisters. One of them will definitely always live in Hungary, and then I also have loads of cousins, and they will always live in Hungary. They love to, that's their sort of life that they like to live, and that's it's all they're always going to be there. And although at the moment I'm not that close to them or keep in touch with them that much, but we grew up going on holidays together or holidaying in each other's houses all the time, or like my whole childhood. So although we don't keep in touch now, we still feel close, if that makes sense. So we connect easily when we meet again, I would say. Yeah. So I can't put myself in your shoes in that sense.
That's all right. That's all right. Yeah, I'm thinking about that too. Yeah. I mean, I have cousins and then not as close. Sure, we grew up together. I don't know. Maybe it just takes a little intentional effort to it.
For Marina Sofia, I am all the places in which I've left my heart. I mean, yeah, I wouldn't say I'm all the places where I left my heart, because you can leave your heart in a holiday destination that you love, but not necessarily for your home, would you? So, and interestingly, actually, that reminds me that I spent a year as an au pair in Austria.
Yeah.
Well, just short of a year, so 10 months or so. And so I was there learning German and helping out in a household. But I do feel attached to it. Like it's a beautiful memory, but I don't feel like that as part of me as a home. That's interesting. I haven't thought about that, to be honest, much. That I don't feel like that's a home, even though I spent almost a year there. So yeah.
Which part of Austria?
Salzburg. So Sound of Music.
Yes. I know. I spent a year in Innsbruck as well, so I know what you're talking about.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
What do you feel about that?
I did an exchange year over there in college, learned German, English there. Yeah, I wouldn't say it's a home, especially we all lived in student dorms. I think student life and married life are very different, or even just work. But it always holds a special memory to my heart. It's like, when I think about Innsbruck, if I had a chance, sure, I would love to go back and take my family there and show them around. I never consider it as home. I think just a very friendly place.
Yeah, I agree. I think, and I wonder if that's different for TCKs, other TCKs, because or whoever those people are who move around more often, get attached quicker or easier, or that's interesting. But I would love to live in a world where there is no borders. I love this idea of just global citizens. I mean, it sounds like a big word, doesn't it? But
wait, you want to be a global citizen, so you would love to move around? Is that what you're saying?
I mean, not necessarily move around that frequently, but just the idea of everybody just having this global citizen identity. That's more and more what the norm is these days, isn't it? Like, that's where the world is going. But then at the same time, there will always be people who appreciate the monocultural life more. And I mean, they both make sense, don't they? I can see the beauty and the sense in both, to be honest.
Yeah. I was thinking about the multicultural lifestyle as well. Like a lot of people I met, they said that, I feel more comfortable with international students. For me, it always put a question mark. It's like, does it mean that if we feel more comfortable with internationals, that we have some challenges in our own circles, or just like what kind of boxes do we put to limit our national friends than international friends? So it's just like always a question for me. And I realized that with international friends, somehow the conversation can be a lot more on the surface, because we need to explain like cultural differences, and this is how I do it in my country, and this is how you do it. And so we spend more time talking about differences than to a heart to heart conversation. I don't know. Does it happen to you?
I guess, yes, it does take longer to get to that point of deeper conversation and digging deep. Yeah, that makes sense. And I think I haven't always been that aware that it's good to have those surface conversations and explain why you do things the way you do. But I've learned through the years that that's actually really helpful. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, like always learning something from the other person.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I mean, it's really widening your horizons and your worldview, doesn't it? And I love it. And I think if I could go back in time, I would probably study anthropology because I find that really fascinating.
I know, world history or even geography, cultures and all. Because like, I totally feel you, because like when I was in school learning all that history and geography, I'm like, but right now I get to put a name on these maps, these years, these incidents. It made me feel more interested to learn about different countries and why this happened, because of the history, because the different cultural contexts. So
yeah, definitely. When I was studying, I did a module on anthropology, and I just really loved learning that, values go in different orders. So some people have this value really high up on their list, and others have it low down. And it's just because they come from different countries and cultures. And that was like, boo, light bulb moment for me. Like, wow, okay, you can love that person now that you know that. But before this knowledge, it was really hard to understand and love them. Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah. Before we move on to talk about your Instagram, is there anything else you would like to add?
Just one thing. I think just that having this multicultural life, one thing that I'm really learning to appreciate is that one of the beauties is that you can pick and choose what values you want to keep for yourself. So for me, at first I was thinking I'm really struggling with these values, that is different from my upbringing than what I'm, the life that I'm moving on to live now. And coming to the realization that I'm able and I'm allowed to form my own values and norms and worldview, merging those and, discarding some things and picking up various things and creating this, I suppose, third culture. I really want to encourage people with that it's okay to not like some of the values that you've been brought up and disagree with, but it's also okay that you're keeping some of it, if that makes sense. It's sort of like a merging of values that I'm learning.
It feels like we are in those crossroads, and we need to live constantly in between, and then I guess it has become a norm for us, and we just learn to accept it, and also, to love it, because it's not how we grew up, and now we're embracing another new style of life. Shall we talk about your Instagram, I love how you design in the colors and everything is so beautiful. So listeners, if you don't know, the handle for Agi's Instagram account is tck.mama, M-A-M-A. So if you want to give it a look, it's there so beautifully. And what do you do on this account?
Yeah, so this account is for me to share what I learned on the go as a TCK parent. And I share ideas and tips from books that I read, from articles and videos that I come across, and just generally in life that I learn. And that's all I do there. I'm not an expert or a coach or anything, but I realize that there are so many parents out there who don't know yet that they are raising TCKs, and that's what I want to do to reach more of those people.
Do you want to talk about your podcast? Because it is something new after our first episode.
Oh, well, it's really, really a baby one. So give me a few more episodes and then I can advertise it more. Yeah, I would love to talk to other TCK parents and do basically a brainstorming thing on a podcast form. So that's still in the making. So yeah, hopefully that will happen.
I think it's good enough because you already put a few episodes up there and I listened to them, all of them. I think it's nice. The name is called Home Anywhere.
Indeed. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. It feels like you have already come to an acceptance, like you can have home anywhere.
Oh, I hope so. So. Yeah. And that's another thing. Let me just add this quickly. Is knowing who I am, learning about my own self as a parent is so important to be able to help my children. So, and that's been a big deal for me this year. And I feel that I'm closer and closer to that point where I'm able to help my children more and more. So encourage all the parents and everyone without kids even to, just get to know yourself really well.
Yeah.
It's a great thing.
It should be a lifelong learning process, huh? Yeah. Totally. Well, listeners, if you would like to know a little bit more about Agi and her work, you can find her on Instagram, tck.mama, and then her podcast link, I'll also put it in the episode note. And yeah, I guess that would wrap up our episode. Thank you so much for coming, Agi.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Chai with Ping. If you think someone will benefit from this episode, don't forget to share it with them. You can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram. If you like my show, you can buy me some chai with small donations. Details are in the episode notes. Till next time.